Oh, okay. Hey, Casey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Just getting settled. Going
Okay.
into a private room.
Oh, we're in a private room?
No. I'm going into a private room. So that
I was like, ooh, talk to me.
well, it is just you and me in here right now. I haven't admitted anyone else yet.
And then do you want to just make sure that I can share my screen? Should I test that real quick?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and test it? I did make it so that anybody could share, so it should work just fine, but go ahead and try it. Do you know how to do it?
It said host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, try one more time.
There we go.
Let me see. Do it again. I'm not seeing your
It's
screen
working.
yet.
It's working. Sorry, it's just taking me a second.
Oh, there we go. Yep, I see it. Cool.
Okay.
Let me know when you're good for me to start letting folks in.
Yep, go for it.
All right.
I was worried no one was going to be here.
No, you've got fans.
People come in is actually making me feel a little bit better.
Oh yeah, I think quite a few folks wanted to do it. Do you see me? Am I on video?
I see you. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. The only reason my camera's off is because my screen will freeze up if it's on.
No worries.
Okay. Should we give people a couple minutes?
Yeah, I'd give it a few minutes. We usually have stragglers till about 3 to 4 minutes after.
I am drowning in setting up those sold data things that Eric sent out yesterday. Like,
oh my God, I know.
I have my phone set far away from me, so, and it was before the do not disturb came on, and all I could hear was ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst way to go to sleep ever.
I know.
Like, knowing that the work is just piling up when you wake up.
Well, I'm going to task Sarah with helping me with that today.
That's good. Yeah. I was hoping to get Kim on it, but what I'm finding is the people that are asking, like, they're old clients of mine for the most part. And so I have to dial in on where their house was, find out what elementary school it, feeds to.
Yes, it is a little bit of work for sure.
And then I feel like I need to send them an email and say, hey, here you go.
Yeah, I have been following up, setting up people up with it and saying, hey, we're so excited about this new tool, but please feel free to like provide me any feedback.
Yeah, I know.
Just in case, I don't know, something.
I know, I'm right there with you. But is everybody else getting a lot of feedback from theirs? Are you guys setting up people on the sold data?
Yeah, I've gotten a fair amount.
One of my clients, and sorry, I'm on black too. Our flight was canceled late last night. So even though it's 8 o'clock and I'm still up, not looking so cute. So for everybody's well-being, I'm sitting here in the bathroom also trying to get ready. But one client with a couple of zip codes, she was interested. It said like, X amount of listings, say it said 20 something, I don't remember. But then it showed only a certain amount that could fit on the screen, maybe 7 or 8. And then I tried to scroll and view more too, and I couldn't see all of them that it stated that it had. And so I just couldn't figure out. So I've asked, about that, but I don't have the answer for that. But I did notice it wasn't showing all that it said it should show. The numbers didn't match.
Oh, shoot.
But maybe it's, user error on both of our parts.
Right. Well, I'm sitting here thinking like, I can't field those types of questions.
Yeah.
Right? I'm the worst.
I was like, good question. I don't know either. So let me get back to you on that.
I found that I don't know if anyone else has found this, but setting them up in Chrome seems to be a little bit more foolproof like Safari. I've had it like not quite work, I don't think, a couple times. So anyways, just I think if you use the Chrome browser to get it all set up, you might see just slightly better, I don't know, success.
Okay.
I only use Chrome usually.
Well, that's
So-
good. I'm trying to get converted over for mail track and all of
Yeah, I
that
use
stuff.
Safari a lot.
I know I'm trying
Maybe
to
that's a
break
problem.
my habit.
Hey, Vivia,
Yes.
I'm sitting here looking at my phone and I just got a text from Mindy, who's the commissioner of the Northwest Softball League. And I was
Oh,
asking her about what I need to do to put my sponsor across the back. And she said that you also are sponsoring a team. And so we pretty
Yes.
much got Northwest softball covered.
awesome. Wonderful. I know I remember last year, I just gave a picture and gave the information and people would be like, oh, they tell me that they'd see me on the sign or something. And I was like, I don't even know what it looks like. And I don't know what this year's looks like either, but that's great.
Well, she just said that the jersey company has supply issues, so they're having to switch at the last
no.
second. But what league does your daughter play in?
Oh, my kids don't even play. I don't know how someone reached out to me one day, but my kids don't play. And I just said, sure, I'll support a team.
That's
and do
awesome.
a banner.
Good for you.
Yes.
Okay, guys, it's about 10:04. We've got a pretty full room, so I think we're gonna kick this off and get it started. Kasey has been wonderful to volunteer to teach this class for us. I know early on in her career, she did a lot of open houses and had a lot of really great success from those. So we wanted her to teach a class to all of us to kind of have what are the best practices when doing an open house, because I can tell you, just opening it up and sitting inside is not going to probably result in much business, but Kasey really knows how to do it. And so Kasey, thank you for hosting the class. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can bestow your wisdom upon us.
Okay, well, Eric coined the term secret sauce. That is not me. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background of how I started doing open houses, and all the JB Goodwin people know this, that at JB Goodwin, if you hosted an open house, they would give you certain marketing dollars and then you could buy marketing stuff with it. That is absolutely the world's worst reason to host an open house, but that is how I got started in it. And then I enjoyed it a little bit. It gave me something to do early on in my career when I didn't have a whole lot going on because I was just starting out. And then when I moved over to Bramlett, I will never forget, we were at an in-person meeting and I was sitting across from Will and the whole team is there. And it was like 10 of us at that point. And Eric said something about open houses and Will was like, why the hell would you ever do an open house? And I was like, oh, I did about 4 million in business last year doing open houses. I think they're great. And he just kind of looked at me like I was insane. And so I say that because it is not for everybody, right? Eric taught me really early on, find out what works for you and continue to do what works, right? And so if this open house concept or idea, you don't like it or you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it. Find something else. Post on social media, do flyers, do something else. Don't think that like, okay, I have to do open houses because somebody generated a lot of business that way. So with that said, we will move in. Okay, let's see if oh my gosh, hold on. I'm like, okay. The only reason you do an open house is to generate unrepresented buyers. I think a lot of people think they're going to host an open house because they're going to represent the buyer that walks into that open house. And that almost never happens. I've had it happen twice in my whole career. And it was, the first one was how I met Eric. It was when I was holding one of Eric's open houses, which obviously led to a whole bunch of other stuff that was great. But that was a total fluke. And then I had it happen 2 weeks ago when I was on the listing side. The open house agent brought the buyer. But like you have to get that out of your head that is not, you're not trying to close a deal that weekend. because if you do that, you'll constantly be disappointed because it never happens. You are there to get unrepresented buyers. You're not selling the house, you are selling yourself. And so to do that, you have to really like think about your image and think about you and think about how people are seeing you when they come into the open house, because you're doing unrepresented buyers come into open houses and then they don't buy for, let's say, 30 to 90 days down the road. But you always want to keep in mind that your time is money. I mean, some people I think get into this frame, well, I'm not doing anything else, but you could be doing something else, right? I started off my career as a CPA, and we bill our time in that industry. You bill your time down to a 15-minute increment. It changes the way that you think about your time. And so when I think of a Saturday, this open house is going to take about 4 hours. I'm going to do some work leading up to it. Like, I want to make sure that I have a return on that investment. Okay, so I'm so sorry. It goes so fast on my computer. I have my mouse set up. So you want to generate the most unrepresented buyers coming into your house. And the way that you do that, and I have tested this over the last, the first 4 years of my career. Like, I was holding open houses out in Round Rock. I was really holding open houses anywhere anybody would let me hold an open house, because I wasn't a listing agent, so I didn't have anything to hold open. But I found out really early on, you need to pick the right houses, and because you want to get the most people in the door. So you want to spend time setting it up for success. Like, there is nothing worse than sitting in an open house and nobody comes in the door. You're just wasting your time. You could be doing something personal for work. It's usually on a Saturday. There are definitely better things to do. So I kind of went into this mentality about like, okay, you want your open house to feel like a house party. You want it to have a lot of people in there. You want it to have a lot of energy. And the way that you do that is you pick the right houses to hold open. And the number one thing you should do is you should pick a house close to where you live. When I started off, I was doing houses out in Steiner Ranch and up in Georgetown and Round Rock. Well, I was spending like an hour getting up there and getting home. So that's 2 hours right there. But I also don't know those neighborhoods. I found when I hosted open houses like closer to my house, the conversation went better. People would bring up stuff and I could really easily insert myself into the conversation. It might not even be about the house, but I sounded like very knowledgeable. I'll never forget, I was in Round Rock and somebody asked me where the closest HEB was. I was like, I don't know, let me get on my phone and look, right? But that's a valid question for somebody to ask, like, how far is the, grocery store from here? Had I been in Northwest Hills, I would have been able to go on and say, well, most people go to HEB, but then we go into Randall's for just, those one-off things, but you better be careful of the parking lot because there are lots of old people. Like, that kind of dialogue and conversation, you're yucking it up, and people love that. That's part of your personality that you're selling. And so I started being like, okay, yeah, I need to focus just on the areas that I really know. Then I started noticing that you only want to do the first weekend because that's when the most people will come through, right? You're trying to generate the most unrepresented buyers. They'll be out there the first weekend. Then I realized that I was holding an open house for Eric over by the Northwest Little League football or baseball diamonds. And the way that neighborhood over there is set up is it's kind of like a ladder. So you have McElroy and you have Stardust and you have something called Silver. And then on the top of it is Anderson Lane. And on this side is Burnett Road. I started figuring out like, oh my gosh, I can put signs on both of those busy streets and it drove more traffic. Whereas I had other neighborhoods where I'd put up signs and if there wasn't a lot of street traffic, nobody would see the signs, they wouldn't come in. So I started realizing I held an open house over on McElroy 6 weekends in a row, which is like I just said, you should really only do it the first weekend. But I would get so many people because that Walmart's over there, people are driving on Anderson, people are driving on Burnett, they would see the signs and I just kept getting more and more traffic. So look take time and look at that, right? And I plan out, like, when I say I'm going to do an open house, I print a Google map out and I look at a map and I try to figure out where I can put my signs. I'm doing that ahead of time. The more signs you can get out, I have 15 signs. I usually shoot for 10 to get 10 to 15 out. I hate doing the signs. I absolutely hate it. I can't get them in the ground. I'm sweating hot. I'm crossing busy streets and I'm holding my sign that's blowing in the other direction. And I know my friends are driving by and seeing me. I absolutely despise putting the signs on the ground, but you have to put the signs on the ground to get the people to come through the open house, right? You can't leave out any part of the step. And so if, the difference between 2 signs or 3 signs and 12 signs, it's a ton. You need to do all of the signs. And because I hate it so much, I really early on realized, ooh, who's that? Is that me?
I think it is you, Kasey.
Oh my God.
We've
I have
got
no-
everybody else on mute.
Hold on. Oh my God. I also hate Google Voice. I don't know how to turn that off. Does anyone know?
Will
Hold on.
it stop?
I stopped it on my phone. I
Is
think
it
it'll
an
just stop. Okay. Anyone want to do a training on Google Voice? I'm in. Anyways, so I have a phrase that I say to people when they walk in the door every single time. Like, I have these scripts that I use, and the script that I use when someone walks in the door is I always say, "Hi, welcome. My name's Kasey. Did you see the open house online or did you see the signs?" And regardless of what they say, my response is, "Oh my gosh, I put those signs in the yard. I just hate it. I can never get them in. So I'm always glad when somebody has seen my signs." Every single person that comes through, I say that to, and immediately I can see the expressions on their face, just like, "Oh, okay, yeah." It's just, you're making them feel at ease. You're not trying to sell them anything. It changes the way that people perceive you. And I figured that out early on. And you're kind of making a joke at yourself to make someone else feel, more comfortable. But at the end, I'm trying to get unrepresented buyers. And if that's what it takes, that's what I do. So you got to find the right house. First weekend, you got to put up a lot of signs and it's got to be in your area. The second thing that you need to do, and you have to prep for it, on Thursday or Friday. And I sometimes was getting lazy. Like, I was doing so many of them and I'm like, oh yeah. And I'd run out of time and not do every single step in the process. And I'd pay for it on Saturday. I'd have less people come through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it full force, right? Because it's about 4 hours on a Saturday that I'm away from my family or not showing to my buyer clients. So on Thursday and Friday, what you want to do is, one, you want to know where you're going to put your signs. I always go over and put in the yard a sign that says open house Saturday, 1 to 3. I'm putting that in the yard earlier on in the week so that the neighbors and the people walking by can see it. It helps. You will get more people that come through. So do that. I always walk through the house when I'm going and putting that sign down if I can, just because I want to kind of know what I'm getting myself into. And then the other thing that I do, and Paul Redham is, I held an open house for him early on in my career, and he had pre-printed, he had invitations that he had printed. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I do not know.
Is there like a little X that you can like click it or decline or?
I can't really see it because I've
Just
got
hit the red button.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it possible
Okay.
on this screen to put like a I'm away kind of thing?
Would love it. or to turn it off. Anybody see that?
I think maybe in settings that you can disable calls on your computer. My voice calls only come to my phone. Calls, incoming
Kasey,
calls, web. There you go. Disable web right there.
This one
There
right
you
here.
go. Yep. Yep.
Okay,
That's
thank you. I never pick it up from my phone or from my computer anyways, because I don't know how to do that. So-
Thank you, Erin.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so Paul Redham had these invitations printed at a local print shop that they look like invitations to a party. And I picked them up and he said, I didn't work for him at the time. I was just holding the open house. And he goes, I need you to go drop these in the mailboxes of everybody on the street. I'm like, okay. So I dropped them in and they were really, really fancy. And when I held that open, I realized that a lot of people came through from that. It was a little over the top for me. So what I did is I had these made. They are door hangers. I had them made at Quantum Digital. And then I made them so that in the back, there's a place where I can write in the address and the hours. And so what I do is I do probably 50 to 60 of these for an open house. And then on Thursday or Friday, I go and I hang them on their doors. Again, then there's also a opening. Somebody will come in, and they'll say, oh, sorry, we're just a nosy neighbor. Oh, we love neighbors. Did you get my door hanger? And they're like, yeah, we did. And I'm like, oh, we absolutely love it when neighbors come through because you guys probably love living in this neighborhood, right? Oh my gosh, we do. And then I always like go into a line that's like, okay, so tell me the inside scoop. What is something that nobody knows about this neighborhood, but you do because you live here? And they will tell you something and you can use that. No one else is going to have that information. And you use that as people come in later on in the day. I held an open house out in Lost Creek and a neighbor came through and they were like, oh, did you know that she goes, what we love is there is a grotto on the trail behind this house that only this side of the street gets to see. And you hike down and then there's a grotto down there. I was like, this is fantastic. I mean, so when people were coming through, I was like, well, this house is pretty unique because it's got a grotto in the back on Barton Creek that only you have access to. And it's like those little tidbits that they're not seeing that on Zillow. They're not seeing that in the MLS. And you're just creating rapport. And because you want to perceive yourself as an expert on everything when it comes to houses. But yeah, this takes time. It takes probably, I usually put about an hour and a half on Friday morning to go hang those. I put on my workout shoes and my book on tape, and I'm just going and multitasking and hanging them. The benefit is that not very many people are also doing this. And so you might have a seller who's thinking about selling who would be like, hey, oh my gosh, no, I haven't even seen any other agents out there doing that. I have not ever gotten a seller that way, but if you're looking for another reason. And I think I had 300 maybe of these made or 500 at a time. And I think it was like $80. Okay. So this is everything that I just went through. So for your time that you're blocking off on Saturday, I always do a 2-hour window for the open house because you're going to be, people come at the end of it. Doesn't matter when the end of it is. They always come in the last 2 minutes. Hey, can we take a look? Of course, come on in, and then somebody else comes after that. So I do 2 hours. I give myself an hour to set out my signs and get to the house and get the house ready. And then 2 hours for the open house and then an hour for wrap up afterwards. The door hangers, the sign-in sheet, the very last thing you're going to do is get them in follow-up box. That's the end goal for your open house, is to get them in follow-up box. So you have to have a way to get their contact information. A lot of people are going to give you bad contact information. That is just the nature of it. I think that if you ask them to sign in after you've built rapport, you'll have a better chance of getting accurate data than if you ask them to sign in right when they walk in the door, right? They're automatic. And then they're not going to come back and say, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I do kind of like you. And I did give you just a bad email address. So I kind of wait until the end to have them sign in. Because your end goal is to get them in follow-up boss. So that open house that I did for Paul Redham, where he had the invitations, he had a champagne and chocolate, like it was really over the top. So I had, he had champagne for me to give them and chocolate for me to give them. And I did that. And then a couple months after that, I started like, I'm getting all my data, I'm putting all my people in my database. And I realized that everybody at that open house had no issues giving me their email address, and they were all right. Like I went back and I reflected on it when I went back and looked at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is that because I offered them chocolate and champagne? And I think it might have been, I don't know, it could have just been a fluke, but I had so many people come through that open house and they all gave me good data. And I got 3 unrepresented buyers from that open house. So I think there might be a correlation there. I feel really goofy about the champagne part of it. Just me personally, there's no issues with serving a little bit of champagne. I mean, it's like, what, $10? But I just feel a little, I don't know. I felt a little off on it. So I always offer chocolate. And I do get people to sign in. I mean, sometimes people will give me bad email addresses, but a lot of times they don't. So I offer that kind of my meat in the middle is the champagne, or is the chocolate and not the champagne. But if you guys are hosting open houses and want to check it out, you could see, you know, I mean, the end goal is to get good email addresses. And then
What kind of chocolate do you take?
Oh, I get it at Costco and I buy it in the big jugs, and and Marquette, who is Paul's wife, had this, this is not my forte, is like setting out chocolate platters, but she had all these little cups for me to put this chocolate in. I went out and bought the exact same cups, and I use those, and I use the kind of chocolate that's pre-wrapped. And yeah, and I've had that chocolate in there for it's a long time. I don't refresh it. Yeah, so I just buy it at Costco, and I just buy something that looks fancy and nice. In fact, I think, yeah, I have my bin here. It's got different colors. And then she had these little containers that I put it in. So, yes. Oh, okay. So yeah, should feel like a house party. When it feels like a house party, it is awesome. And I had one in Northwest Hills, and I was actually the listing agent on it. There were so many people in the house, and I was an unrepresented buyer. I was telling them about it. We already had like 6 offers on the house, and I'm talking to her about the neighborhood. I'm talking to her about the offers. And I realized as I'm talking to her and her husband, that there are 3 couples that are just sitting there listening to what I'm saying. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. It's like a captive audience. Like, this is awesome. So you want to make sure you sound like you know what you're talking about. You're educated on the house. You're easy to talk to. That I think is the secret sauce. Because then the people and those unrepresented buyers that I talked to ended up buying a house a month later, and 990,000, I think, is what they. One of the things you have to keep in the back of your mind is you're doing this so you can feed your personal pipeline, right? So your personal deals are always going to 2x your income, really, compared to or not 2x, but you're always going to make more money on personal deals than you are the company deals. And so the company deals are great, but the way I kind of always looked at it is I'm playing the long game. I want to, I want those personal deals because I don't have to work as hard for them, right? And then just, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but you need to be dressed appropriately. I went into an open house once with clients and the guy was wearing swimming trunks. And I was like, how are you an expert on anything? You don't even look like you want to be here. And I didn't even realize he was the agent, like it was just so bizarre. So yes, dress like you're going to a job interview. And yeah, and you just need to be engaged and on. I've been to other open houses where the agent is sitting at the kitchen table working and like barely looks up. Again, you're here to get unrepresented buyers. And if you ever have a seller who wants you to hold the open house and you're not interested in it, get somebody else to do it. They will do a better job. I mean, you're not doing your sellers any favors by sitting in your swim trunks at the kitchen table, not looking up at people, right? And there are tons of people that want to hold open houses. Like we post those on those Facebook groups every week, and it's like 10 minutes and they're gone. Okay. And then the very last thing you do is you have to get them in follow-up boss, and then you're done. But it is so easy to not want to do that at the end because you're tired and you just want to go home, and now it's 5 o'clock on Saturday and you've got stuff to do. I try to not leave in the house until I get them in follow-up boss, because I feel like with my schedule, things go sideways when I get home. So if there's any downtime at all during the open house, which hopefully there isn't, I'm putting them in follow-up boss, and I'm scheduling I have an email template. Hey, it was great meeting you at my open house in Allendale today. If you need any other information, please feel free to reach out. I put them in follow-up boss before I send that email. Then I send that email and then I'm done. And Eric will do the rest for you, because once they're in follow-up boss, they're getting that monthly newsletter. So you're touching them every month and they will reach out if they need you. Like I met a guy at that McElroy open house before I worked at Bramlett. And that guy, I just emailed him today about the sold data. He's never moved or anything like that, but he got the email from Eric that said, we can get them sold data. And I just set him up on the sold data. But like, I haven't done anything with him since then, right? Unless he's reached out. So that is the key. Just get him into follow-up boss. And when you get them into follow-up boss, you've already touched them. So they're automatically a personal deal, right? Because you're reaching out to them, you're finding them, and you can track them. So I always just put in the background, KKG met at open house on whatever date and the address, mostly so I can remember. But I had somebody come through an open house 3 years ago. Last year, a woman reached out to me and she said, my sister met you at an open house a couple years ago. Could you help me find a place? And I'm like, of course I can. Who is your sister? I did not have the sister in my follow-up boss. So, which is terrible, right? Because, then the sister reached out to me to help her buy a place. And then the other sister referred somebody from her work. And I'm like, this is like great. I mean, so for people who say that open houses don't work, I don't know if I say that, but they work for me. And so if you feel like you have that person, I mean, it is kind of like selling in retail where you have to like be able to just go up and start talking to people. If you can do that, and it's all scripts. It's the same Kasey Gilliam open house show every week. I do it. Okay, what questions do people have?
Okay, Kasey.
Yes.
Hey, number one, I'm so glad I jumped on this call because I sent that Facebook message out earlier that I have someone, Marilee Desjardins. I don't know if y'all have ever worked with her, but she has her own little boutique brokerage, but she always tells me when her houses are coming on. And so she has 2 upcoming. So I text her during this call. So I've got 2 open houses I'm going to do, and I'm going to use your template. So I'm going to be reaching out to you probably for maybe ask you some questions, but awesome timing. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Very cool.
And are they in the areas where you know everything?
Yeah. I know one's in Mueller. I thought they were both in Terrytown, but I'm pretty familiar with Mueller. I'm super familiar with Terrytown. So yeah, I mean, I'll be familiar by Saturday.
Right? And that brings up a good point. On Terrytown and higher end areas, you will have less unrepresented buyers in those areas because those price points are higher and you'll have less first-time home buyers. I personally find that most people that I get from an open house are a first-time home buyer because they don't know anybody yet. By the time they are gone through 2-3 home purchases, which if you're in Terrytown and you're at the 3.5 million mark, then they usually know somebody else. Not that I wouldn't do those, but just know that I kind of think that sweet spot is the 350 to 700 because and it's shocking to me how many first-time home buyers are now buying at $1 million. But I think that is kind of a sweet spot for people that don't have an agent.
Perfect. Very helpful.
What kind of handouts do you have at your open houses, Case?
None.
None? Nothing.
None. Mm-mm. I'm selling me. Yeah, I'm not really giving them anything. If the listing agent has something, those will be there. Most listing agents aren't doing. We do the cards. When I first started doing open houses for Eric, he'd have 5 piles of handouts. He'd have the seller's disclosure. He'd have the printed brochure, the 10 things I love about this house, and they'd all be lined up. I will tell you, this was at the McElroy house, and I did it for 6 weeks. People don't want the stuff. I don't want the stuff. And you can use it as an opening. If they say, hey, how old is this roof? Oh, it's probably on the seller's disclosure. Would you like me to email that to you? Here, can you put your email address down and I'll send that over to you.
It's a great pivot.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, what else?
So you do use those listing cards to send them to the website at all?
I do those on my listings, yes. And so I guess I would hand them that if they wanted it. I don't really see a lot of people taking those. I go to a lot of listings where that stack is still sitting there and I don't think anybody's taking them, but we do that for our sellers, right? So yeah, I would hand them one of those, but they also have, for my listings, they have my name on it. If I were you guys, I wouldn't hand those.
Sure, yeah.
So Kasey, maybe like a stack of business cards near your sign in.
Maybe, yeah. But even then, I feel like people don't like stuff. So you could say, hey, I can send you my contact information. What's your phone number? And text it to them right then.
I totally agree. I fall in the no stuff camp as well, especially with the Austin market where everybody's a little bit more techie and stuff like that.
Yeah, green, yeah.
One thing that I was just thinking at the very end of your presentation is getting people in follow-up boss, but now that we also have that market update tool, I would also just go ahead and set them up on a market update for that particular neighborhood right away.
Yeah, I think that's great. Or, use that as, so when I'm putting them in follow-up boss, I'm like 50-50 chance if this is going to be a real email address, right? And if I get thanks, it was nice meeting you too. Hey, would you guys like to see sold data on this area? Because we have this, tool that'll show you the sold data. And people want that because they can't get it anywhere else.
Yes.
And so I think the main thing is making everybody feel comfortable. I feel like there are so many times when people feel bad about coming into an open house. And I'm like, no, I want as many people as possible. And I cannot tell you for sellers, I have held open houses where people have put in offers and they're sitting in that open house and they are panicking because there are so many people in the house. One of the open houses I held, and I'm sure Rob has heard the story, but I was in Northwest Hills. We went into the open house. with 6 offers. And one of the ladies, agents, called me during the open house. I can't even believe I picked up my phone. And I picked it up and she's like, my clients are at that open house and you need to shut it down right now. We are increasing our offer by $15,000, but we need the open house to be over. It was ending in 15 minutes. I was like, oh, okay. Can you send over that revised offer? But yeah. And I tell that to people when I go on listing appointments. I mean, that's part of my script, like, because there are a lot of sellers that are like, I don't want neighbors coming through my house. Really? Your neighbors love living here. They have friends that come over for dinner that say, hey, I wish we could live in this neighborhood. Wouldn't it be great if we lived closer? So I think it's awesome to have neighbors go through. Like, that's a no-brainer for me, which is why these things are like easy.
Kasey, can you walk us through how you created those? Was it like an existing template?
Okay, yeah, I am not, obviously, as you all can see, I'm not very techie. So Quantum Digital had all this part in a template. You could pick your colors. So I picked blue, but like, I think maybe this was an image I copied somewhere off the internet, but all of this was just a template. And then on the back, it just says, your neighbors need your help. Your neighbors are selling their home. We are holding an open house this weekend and we would love for you to stop by. And oh, I forgot to mention this. In addition, we'd like to put up directional signs to help potential buyers find their home. Your yard might be the ideal place. If you would prefer we don't put a sign in your yard, please contact me. Because there is nothing worse than someone coming out in their bathrobe yelling at you for putting up your sign in their yard. True story. And I had my kids with me while I was doing it. My kids were helping me and this guy is in this bathrobe yelling at me. And I'm like, well, I did put a note on your door and you didn't mention that. Well, I forgot. But anyway, so I like to put that in, and so I do on the street of the house that I'm holding open and any house where I'm putting a directional sign, because I feel like that makes me feel a little bit better. And then I just write down in here, open house, Saturday, 2 to 4, please stop by. And then I say my name, Kasey. So Quantum Digital, that's who JB Goodwin used for a lot of their signs and everything like that. I think they're great. I would, I don't love Stokes, but I don't have time to reinvent like how do you order signs and stuff, but they're local too. And you can, they're over kind of off of Cameron Road and you can go pick stuff up so you can get it quick if you need it.
I like Quantum Digital a lot too for printing needs.
Yeah, I don't know if they do signs. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know. I can't hear who's talking.
It's Philip. Can you,
Okay.
is there a possibility, could you send that out to us so we could see it as a template?
I am so sorry. I can't hear him. Isn't he?
I think Philip is asking if we can use it as a template. Philip, Quantum Digital has the template.
Okay.
So if you
I just wanted
work
to
with
see
them-
how she worded stuff, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, I can. I'll
Maybe
snap a
copy and
picture of this
paste.
and send it to Lauren so you can have the wording. Yeah, no hours I spent on this wording. I am crippled by this kind of stuff. So by all means, copy it and use it.
That'd be great.
I
Thanks,
wonder if I can-
Kasey.
Okay, I'm going to text it to Lauren right now. Okay. What else?
The only other thing I'd add is that be very, very, very aware of anything else that's on the market in whatever neighborhood you're working. So do some research. And the only flyer that I usually bring with me is other houses that are on the market in the neighborhood and the price point. I kind of map it out from the MLS. And then if I find people who are interested in a home in that neighborhood, I kind of pull that out of my bag and hand it directly to them. It's got my contact information on it. That's the only thing I do.
Mm-hmm. And you can do that in the MLS by like selecting open houses in an area, or you can even do non-open houses so they can drive by it and then print multi-map.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome. Anybody else
class.
have some questions? Any other questions? Well, it sounds like the answer is no.
And Erin, I talked to Erin earlier or last week. She had listened to, I did not get a chance to listen to that podcast, but she had listened to a really good podcast on open houses. Do you want to share the name?
Yeah, so the podcast is by Tom Ferry, and it's called,
Let me see if I have it.
Oh.
You texted it to me and then I did not
yeah,
have
it's
time.
something about top ideas for generating business or blah blah blah. But he
Proven
also
plays for breakthrough results.
proven place for breakthrough results, and and it's like one of the, I think it might be the very first example on that episode. And they also have there's a link to scripts as well, but in that example they are role playing, actually talking to neighbors who and finding out that they're interested in selling in the
That's
future,
great.
and the neighbors are trying to get some intel on like, what do you think our house could sell for. But I also built my business in Denver on open houses, and yeah, everything that you said. I did flyers. I didn't do door hangers because I was super poor. But the flyers worked too, and I actually then paid people 10 at that time, 20 years ago, 10 cents a flyer to put them out for me when I didn't have time anymore. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Great.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Kasey.
Kasey.
Yeah. And feel free to reach out if you have any other questions.
Deal.
thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Casey.
Casey.